Yeah. Yeah. Come and never sleep on me. Eyes on my chain 숙여 너의 고개를 what you looking at fool 너의 눈 허리 멍청했고 find your comfort from another yeah. I go low like undercover yeah. Wanna know my name 죽지 않은 일은 위에 부어버려 기름 gas.
What's up, everyone? So, welcome to For Your Ears Only, a Bond podcast. I am Jonathan Lonham, and this is my friend Colton Flatt.
Hey, everybody.
So, today, what we're going to do is we're going to go over the first Bond movie, 1962's Dr. No. So, Colton, what brings you to the series? How long have you been watching this movie series?
I'd say I'm fairly new to it. I probably started watching Bond about 5 years ago, but like it wasn't really till I started paying attention to what I was watching until probably about a year ago, where I actually got into it and the lore and like learning the history and stuff from you. And you've helped me with a lot of that, understanding stuff that I didn't derive fully from the movie too, and it's been enjoyable.
I understand. Before we get started, I want to go ahead and say, so as of the time we're recording this, it's actually the day that Ian Fleming died back in 1964. So kind of strange how it all, like, we didn't plan this. It just kind of fell together. So yeah, so Dr. No. So before we get started talking about, really the meat of the movie. So Colton, the movie Dr. No, how does it rank for you? You a fan? You a middle or?
It definitely holds up. I think the quality of the film, a lot of movies from that time period, they don't really look good, but it seems like the 4K scan they've got of the recent one I watched on Apple TV, it looks good. Like the choreography and the way it was shot, like it holds up, I think.
So you've actually got a little bit. You got something on me because I have not seen the 4K scan. I have seen it on Blu-ray and DVD and VHS, but I have not seen any Bond movie on 4K so far. So,
well, I'm not sure if my TV plays it all the way in 4K. It might just, but I do know that Apple TV had the 4K scan. They actually had the people in the credits that did the updating scan to digital.
Really?
So it looked clear. I mean, it didn't look like No Time to Die or anything, but like it looked really good for film on digital, I would say.
So I'm gonna have to say, like, if you would have asked me maybe 5 or 6 years ago, I might have even said Dr. No was my favorite. I used to really rank it. I would say probably top 5, if not number 1 for a year or two. It was always one of my top movies. I would probably put it in the middle category now, not because it's bad at all. I just feel like, one of the Bond YouTubers I watch, Calvin Dyson, he said that Dr. No is a vanilla Bond movie, as in it, it's the one that started it and it did a good job, but all the other movies added something to it. Like it was kind of like a blueprint that they improved over time. And I really do believe that's probably the right way to look at it. At least, I mean, because I love the movie, but I mean, compared to some of the other ones, I mean, like, just say if you take certain parts, like, I mean, for instance, like car chases, I mean, you can watch that one car chase, with the hearse and the, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
I mean, and compare that to something, I mean, maybe just, 2 movies down the road in Goldfinger, you can see them doing a lot better in that department. But anyway, well, I'm really jumping the gun on that one. But yeah, like, I mean, I've always liked the movie. It's always been good. I like the whole Cold War, 60s time period. Sean Connery, I'll just go ahead and tell you that is definitely my favorite James Bond.
He definitely, his like energy, like he exudes as Bond. Like I think that is like the cornerstone. Like he's not my favorite, but it's not because there's anything wrong with him. Like he just, like in the introduction to Bond and Dr. No, where he's at the card table and like he introduces himself, that is just pure sex. Like
Yes.
that man is just perfect for the role, and he looks really good in this film too. He's really fit. Like I don't know.
So Connor was actually involved in the Mr. Universe is it pageants or whatever they have, where they would muscled up guys would go, and
Yeah,
so Connery was really big into bodybuilding at one point.
it makes a lot of sense for his build and stature. Like he's tall.
So Connor actually wasn't the first choice of Bond. Like Ian Fleming actually was not really into Sean Connery at first.
Really.
So Ian Fleming like originally wanted this guy named David Niven to be James Bond, and coincidentally, he would actually go on to be James Bond in a 1967 spoof of Casino Royale,
which I still have not seen, but you've told me something about.
Yeah, you need to see it just for completion's sake. It's crazy, but Ian Fleming actually saw Connery as a little bit too much of a country boy, too much of just like, I think his words were like an overgrown Scotsman or something like that.
He definitely got the meat and potatoes look.
Yeah, but
especially when he had them overalls on.
Some other guys that were asked was what is the man's name? Cary Grant, which I don't know if you know who that is, but he was in several Alfred Hitchcock movies. Very famous actor from the time.
I'm aware of him, but I can't place his face in my mind right now.
And I've always heard that Roger Moore was approached for this role as well, but he was too busy doing his TV show at the time, The Saint.
I've never heard of his show.
You never heard of The Saint?
No, I've actually never seen any of Moore's Bond films, other than like my grandmother had like I think A View to Kill when I was a kid. So like I remember the like VHS case, but like I don't ever remember watching it.
So a piece of trivia I want to tell you before we get started. So Dr. No, it is the first cinematic James Bond adventure, but do you know what the actual first time that James Bond was ever portrayed in just a motion picture form? Because it was not Dr. No.
What was it?
It was actually 1954's television special called Casino Royale. And it was on an American TV show called Climax. And the guy that played Bond was an American named Barry Nelson.
Okay.
And have you ever watched The Shining, the Stephen King movie, The Shining?
I've not seen it, but I know what you're talking about.
Okay, so Barry Nelson is actually in that movie as the manager of the hotel that they're at.
All right.
So just think, if you ever watched The Shining, the very first man that portrayed Bond in a motion picture form is in that movie. But
I'll have to watch it now. I like Nicholson, so like Chinatown is probably one of my favorite movies ever. So,
oh really?
If you've never seen Chinatown, that's cinema right there.
I've heard of that movie before, actually.
I think you would love it.
I'll have to check that out. So just getting started off, I mean, we're going to start the very beginning of the movie. What do you think about the gun barrel sequence?
I like it. Like it's cool seeing the first one. Like I don't know. Like I really like how like trippy those title sequences and stuff are. Anyway, like I loved them. So I thought it was really cool.
Yeah, like the gun barrel sequence to me is one of my favorite things about watching the Bond movies. To get that, like the gun barrel image, what they did was they took a 38 handgun, like a revolver, and they put a tiny camera in there. So what you're seeing is actually the gun barrel of a 38.
Well, that's really cool because I didn't like it. It didn't. I'm not saying it didn't look like that to me. It didn't seem like something I would think would be a practical effect they could do back then. Like I didn't know they had cameras that size then.
Yeah, and the man that's in the gun barrel who shoots is actually not even Sean Connery, but it's actually Bob Simmons, which is Sean Connery's stuntman for the movie.
Well, he did move like Bond, so it makes sense that it would be a stunt double.
And so, I mean, in a way, you could say that Bob Simmons actually portrayed James Bond before Sean Connery did. In a roundabout way of saying it.
Yeah, that makes sense.
And of course, in this movie, we don't get any pre-title sequence, so it just goes straight on to the title sequence. What do you think about the title sequence in this movie?
I liked it. I liked how trippy it was. It. I don't know how they shoot it, but I assume they shoot it. It doesn't look animated, but the way they move kind of looks like old rotoscope animation. Like I don't know how it's done. Like I'd have to research it. I mean, it's really cool. Uh, like the change of music from the Bond theme to like the Three Blind Mice is like it's a sharp change, and
It
I like
really
it.
is.
I like the opening sequence of the film, so I really enjoy it.
It is a very jarring change, though. It
It
does
is.
not like gel together. It's
No,
just
it doesn't transition well. No,
you gotta love it though. I mean,
yeah,
it's so like old fashioned kind of.
it's just like genius. Like using them at the beginning of the movie for that is like awesome. I was so the first time I ever watched Doctor No, I was just taken aback. I was like, man, nobody would ever suspect these dudes of doing what they just
Yeah,
did.
yeah. The Three Blind Mice. I mean, really, that's the first James Bond henchman right there. That's the Three
And they
Blind
do a good
Mice.
job.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, like and of course, we see them killing
Anyways,
Strangways, and then they kill his secretary, and also I don't like at that at the card club that they were at. Some of those guys you'd see later on in the movie, like Professor Dent. He's there. I don't know if you noticed whenever you watched it, but some of those guys later on in the movie they come up.
Yeah, because it's like they had close ties to him,
Yeah.
and then they like betrayed him. Essentially, that's what I got. So
So moving on, what do you think about whenever Bond is the introduction to him at
oh,
the
it's my favorite part of the movie. I'm not gonna lie.
like
Like it's just
not even just the movie. That's one of my favorite parts of the whole franchise. Really, like
I completely get it. Like it's so iconic. Like
I don't think they could do it any better than the way they did it. It's perfect.
no, that's my favorite introduction, other than maybe Pierce Brosnan's introduction in Goldeneye. I like that one too. But definitely Connery's is just like if anybody ever says anything about him where he's like, oh, it's blah blah, it's like just that scene alone like refutes it pretty much for me. Like I don't have any problems with that.
And you got remember this is 1962. You got everyone smoking cigarettes. You got everyone drinking heavily. Just a complete different world to now. You don't see people smoking. At
No,
least you don't see glamorous people smoking now. People you see
it's not.
smoking now are just like rednecks at the grocery store. You know what I mean? Like out in the parking lot.
People that shouldn't be. Like they really try not to glorify it nowadays. Whenever it was just like everybody did it back then.
Yeah.
Like you weren't cool if you didn't smoke.
Yeah, like little piece of trivia. The Bond novels were really, really. I mean, that's all he did was smoke
Yeah,
in
he
the
was a chain
novel.
smoker.
Yeah, like
You
in,
told me about that.
in Casino Royale, it was talking about how he would smoke around 60 to 70 cigarettes a day. And you got to think, I mean, this guy is supposed to be a secret agent. He's supposed to be able to run, and
There's no way.
and to go underwater and hold your breath for 2 or 3 minutes. There ain't no way with all that alcohol and all that drinking and I mean all that smoking. There ain't no way you could do all that.
I
But
don't understand how he drinks so much on the job and still gets anything done.
and
Like
still can drive a car and hold a
it's
gun and not shake and
it's nuts. Like it doesn't. Clearly, it's fiction because
yeah, most definitely.
anybody with that much of an alcohol addiction, like in the real world, would not be able to hold that position. I don't
Well,
think.
I mean but I think that's really that's a Ian Fleming thing that he put into the character because Fleming was a big time drinker and smoker. That's what led to his early death. I mean, Fleming died when he was in his mid 50s. I mean, he wasn't old, like but he died because of just the way he lived. So,
Right.
but so let me ask you this: moving on from the casino scene, because we could sit here and talk about how good that casino scene is for
Yeah, we
hours.
probably need to move
It's
on.
perfect. But moving on from that, we see Bond go to M's office. And I have to say, some of the best scenes in my opinion, of the Bond movies are when Bond, specifically Connery's Bond, is talking to M. And I mean, I'm a fan of Judi Dench. You know, I like all the M's, but I have to say, Bernard Lee's M has always been my favorite. Like, so you got anything to say about M? What do you think about the Bond M scenes?
I like them in the movies. This one I liked his interaction with Bond in this one. Like, he didn't take any slack from Bond. Like, he's like, man, look, I've told you, you gotta quit using that Beretta. He's like,
I'm glad you picked up on that. Yeah.
Like even when the first time I watched the film a couple years ago, I was like, I didn't know James Bond carried a Beretta. Like, and then like he's like, you are not carrying this Beretta. And then Bond tries to be sneaky and walk out with the Beretta. He's like, give me the Beretta back. Come on, man.
So I'm glad you brought that up because I want to talk about the Beretta for a little bit, okay? So the original Ian Fleming novels. So from Casino Royale to the novel Dr. No, Bond carries a Beretta. And he carries a Beretta 25 caliber. And I'm sure you know about guns because I know your dad's a big gun person, right?
I know a little bit.
So
and I have several guns of my own.
Yeah. So yeah, you're big into 1911s, right?
I have two 1911s. I enjoy them.
So 25 caliber is like the worst caliber you can have. Like, I mean, 22 is a better caliber than a 20. You know what I mean?
It's small.
Yeah, but
just a little bit.
So this is a pretty cool story, but this man named Jeffrey Boothroyd, who was big into like handguns and just guns in general, really liked M. Fleming's books, and he hated the fact that James Bond was carrying a 25 caliber Beretta.
Right.
So he writes into Ian Fleming. He's like, you know, Mr. Fleming, I love your books, but I've got one thing to say. James Bond would never carry that. He would be dead if he did because it has no power. And he was like, really, what he needs to carry is a 44 Magnum.
Right.
But you know, Ian Fleming's like, well, I really think James Bond should have an automatic. So he writes back. He says, well, if he's going to have an automatic, he needs to have a Walther PPK.
Right.
So Ian Fleming, being the guy he is, you know, he was a snob, but at the same time, he knew when somebody else knew
more
about a subject than he did. So Ian Fleming literally gives James Bond a Walther PPK in the novel Dr. No. And then he also, like the guy who gives him the gun, his name is Boothroyd. So Fleming even used that name, like that guy's name in it.
That's a really cool nod.
Yeah, that's what I thought too.
Outside work that came to him. On the subject of that, it's kind of diverging from the Bond topic, but there's an author I read his books. His name's Jim Butcher. He writes the Dresden Files books, and in the Dresden Files books, like, he references pop culture and everything all the time. And in the first couple books, Harry Dresden, the main character, he carries I think he carries a 38, and like just like a snub nose 38 or whatever. Yeah. And like I read something or something about people critiquing that he carried that gun, and like they wrote in, and like eventually like Jim Butcher had Harry get like a higher caliber gun. Like he went on to get like a 357, and then he ended up getting later on in the books he gets like a 500 Smith & Wesson, like still in the revolver category, but like he knew that, like, okay, I got to get him a heavier gun for the things he's going up against. So that kind of correlates to your Bond story. So.
Definitely.
Plus, in the Dresden Files books, they make James Bond jokes all the time. Like, there's a bad guys on Sea-Doos, and like, one of the characters like, really, Roger Moore Bond villains? It's some good stuff in there. So
just building on, and I feel like we're taking a lot of time talking about these guns, but building on what we're just talking about with the Beretta. So in the movie, M makes him give up the Beretta. But the thing is, the Beretta in the movie is not the 25 caliber Beretta. It's actually the one in the movie is a Beretta M1934, which takes 9mm short.
Okay.
And he gives Bond a Walther PPK, which takes 32 ACP, what is called 7.65mm, which is funny because the Beretta caliber is actually more powerful than what he was giving him. So it's
ironic, really.
it's just kind of a goof, but
Really makes Bond seem like, come on, man.
it just kind of show. I mean, of course, back then in 1962, nobody thought there were going to be people nerding out about little facts like that in the movies, but
On the screens they watched it on back then, they probably couldn't even see what it really was.
exactly, just two black guns,
Yeah.
But and so what? Like I don't know if you noticed, but the guy that gave Bond his gun, that was supposed to be Q.
Okay.
But that was like the only time until Skyfall that anybody besides Desmond Llewellyn would portray Q. It was Peter Burton in Doctor No.
Okay.
I mean, he didn't have a big part at all. He just came in and just gave the gun to him pretty much, and that was it.
Now is Q in the Casino Royale spoof?
Yes.
Does a different actor play him, or does
it's a different actor.
Okay.
I don't even remember that guy's name.
Well, I know it's not like in the same canon. I know it's a parody or whatever. So I was just curious about that because like I said, I've never seen it. So
well, I mean, we'll watch that one too, and we'll talk about it. I need to watch that movie because it's been a minute since I watched it. So
man, we need to get together. We could probably get together and watch it or something. That'd be
cool.
Yeah,
we should. We ain't too far apart. Okay.
So another thing that I enjoyed about this version of him is like he already has Bond's number. Like Bond walks out of the office, and before Bond can even start flirting with Moneypenny, he's like, all right, no more. He's like, Bond's in a hurry. You got to shut it down. So I enjoyed that, and I like his repertoire with Moneypenny anyway. So
I like how he gave her the gun box.
like there was something in it.
Yeah.
He did it really smooth too. Like,
yeah.
I don't know, it was enjoyable.
The Moneypenny Bond scenes, they're really a really famous part of the movies. Not really like that in the novels.
Yeah, I don't remember much from the Casino Royale novel I read about his. I don't even remember. I'm sure she was mentioned. I just don't remember to what capacity or anything.
Yeah, she was briefly mentioned in the novel Casino Royale. Really, Bond has a more flirtatious relationship with his own secretary, and her name is Loelia Ponsonby.
That's
and she's been adapted to the movies, but
I didn't even remember her from the book. So
she wasn't in Casino Royale. So
that makes sense.
Yeah.
Like,
I mean, you got to think, man. Think about all that stuff now, which would obviously be sexual harassment in the workplace. That whole Moneypenny scene. That's all that was.
Well, you already know, as long as the guy's good looking, it's not sexual harassment most of the time anyway.
But I mean, it wasn't all just Bond. I mean, I feel like Moneypenny was kind of taking part in it as well. It wasn't just all him. So I mean,
I think if he didn't live so dangerously, there might have been something there.
Most definitely.
I really think, I feel that in all the incarnations I've seen of them together.
Yeah.
I kind of want to see it in a way.
I mean, it would be kind of nice in a way,
Yeah, to know he had something steady to come home to.
Yeah. So moving on from that, we see old Sylvia Trench made it into his bedroom.
Oh yeah, I know the Bond women have wild names anyway, but Trench, like, Jesus.
I know.
That's laying it on thick, isn't it?
I know. That's what I thought too.
They
could have really done better than that.
Yeah, like that's. You're not shading it any colors at all. You're just putting it out there.
But I mean, she's the first. I mean, really, she's the first Bond girl. Eunice Gayson, the woman that played Sylvia Trench, first one of the whole series, right there.
Has she done anything else notable in any other franchises or?
She was the first Bond girl to ever come back for another movie in From Russia with Love. Okay. But I don't know if she was ever in another big time movie like Dr. No or From Russia with Love. And I'm sure if if anybody watches this, they'll probably comment and say, well, Jonathan, she was in so and so, but I don't know. Like,
No, I mean, and they should feel free. I mean, they should definitely hit us up. Like,
most definitely.
give us a holler.
We must know what Eunice Gayson did.
Yeah, maybe she's got some risque posters she did sometime back in the day.
I mean, hey, she was a 10 back in the day, man.
Oh yeah.
I mean, yeah, and just think like, with the societal norms today, I mean, having just some woman you just met over your house, that's not a big deal as long as you're single. I mean,
oh yeah, can't be married doing that.
But I mean, for 1960s, I imagine society was a lot more conservative than it is now. Back then, just some random woman only wearing a button-up shirt playing golf.
Oh, yeah.
So I imagine seeing that on the big screen was kind of jarring back in the day, I guess. I don't know.
Yeah, she definitely gave off energy that probably made women in theaters mad. They were probably prudish about it. So I'd be wondering, like, whenever I first watched it, I remember like, man, why is she in this room? Like, did she have some type of ulterior motive or whatever? Like, she didn't. Not that I saw, but like,
well, I've got something to say about that scene too. Now that you bring it up, Colton. So James Bond, he's supposed to be the most, I mean, straight up the most badass male in the world, pretty much.
He's definitely an alpha.
Yeah. How was this young lady supposed to have got into his house or flat or whatever? I mean, how? Like,
is this in Chelsea, by the way? Does he live in Chelsea?
Yes. Good job on that one.
Yeah, I remember that. So,
but yeah, I just always thought, I mean, how would this random woman just like?
She might be good at picking locks.
Maybe
but you would figure somebody like Bond would have better preparations.
Like some sort of like system where a random woman off the street can just barge into your house, but
right.
But I kind of do dig Bond's, his flat, all the old pictures of like old timey cars and stuff on the wall. I don't know, I kind of dig it,
Yeah, that's definitely like a style we can relate to, I guess. Just a nice aesthetic.
Yeah, most definitely.
I like how he's like, I've got to go. But it's like he didn't leave.
Yeah. Hey, moments like that, man, that's Bond right there.
Well, it really seems like that of all the stuff I've seen in his movies, like alcohol and the women, that's like, in layman's terms, it seems like that's Bond's kryptonite.
Yeah. Like, especially the women on the.
Oh yeah, he falls hard real quick.
Yep. So moving on, we finally get him in Jamaica.
I like the traveling aspect of it, which I think draws a lot of people to Bond.
Yeah.
The different locale.
So, like after World War II, a lot of people in the UK, they couldn't, travel around the world. In 1962, that was still relatively, close to that time where a lot of people couldn't go all over the world. So the fact that Bond is going to all these places, I really think that was a big draw, not just, for the women and the action or violence or whatever, but also you got all these different exotic locales,
That a lot of like regular people that would watch this movie in theater, they, other than the people that were in the war, they probably haven't traveled.
Exactly.
So,
tell me what you think about the scene with Mr. Jones. Do you remember Mr. Jones?
I don't. The name's not coming to me. I just watched the movie in the last 2 days, even though I'd previously seen it before. You might have to give me a refresher.
The chauffeur.
The chauffeur. Oh yeah, the guy driving the car. He's like, they sent a car for you. And he's like, hold up, this fishy. He said, let me go check. That was smooth, because like any lesser person would have just been like, oh yeah, I'll take a free ride. But he had told him before that he wanted to keep it low key, which makes sense. Like, and also another thing I did not like in this movie is Bond wearing a hat. but like he's trying to keep it low key. And they mentioned later in the movie that his hat is what kept him from being photographed. I had a problem with it, but it came back and it's like that's what kept him like from getting photographed and seeing his face. So I thought that was cool.
So in a lot of the early Bond movies, you see Bond wearing a hat. Like that's a common thing up until probably what on Her Majesty's Secret Service, Diamonds Are Forever. I think that might be the last time we see him regularly wear a hat. But the scene whenever he goes and calls Government House to make sure they didn't send the chauffeur.
Yeah.
I like this scene because he calls them and they're like, no, we didn't think you wanted one. So at that moment, Bond knows this guy is bad. But instead of like, just getting a taxi, he like is going to play with it. He's going to like, all right, I'm going to see what I can do,
It's so smart.
Yeah. And I think it's also kind of sadistic too, because, he knows good and well, hey, I can take this guy and I'm going to go see what I can do and see what I can find out, I don't know. I just always kind of like that.
Yeah, I definitely agree with it. It shows you that he thinks a step ahead.
Mm-hmm.
When a woman's not involved.
Yeah.
Now when I was complaining about his hat, like it's not really a problem that he's wearing a hat. It's like it gives me a different vibe. Like I know like he's a spy, but it makes him come across as like a gumshoe to me.
Oh, okay, I understand.
In a way, like it throws me off genre wise, even though they're close together.
Yeah, well, I think it especially is jarring nowadays because men don't wear hats much, and the ones we do see wear hats these days are usually kind of strange, weird people. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
It
just doesn't fit in with time.
And I probably just pissed somebody off by saying that. So sorry if I did, but
well, they're probably bald, so
but
they're probably just mad about being bald anyway.
But yeah, I understand what you're saying about the gumshoe thing. So what about the little chase they had? What about the people following him?
Okay, so at first I was slightly confused whenever the car chase first happens, because the car chase is going on and it's fine. Like it doesn't look bad until you get the cutaways, like where you can clearly tell it's green screen. But like at that time, that was still new technology. Like it looked good for the time period, so I'm not really complaining about that. There might be some problems with sound effect stuff, like squealing tires on gravel, but that's a common TV trope and movie trope from that time period. But like the part that confused me, like, was when Bond had him pull over, and Bond points the gun at him. He's like, "We're gonna wait on your friend right here." Like I was like, so that's his buddy. But like later on, you find out it wasn't his buddy, and you find out who it really was. And I'm like, oh, okay, that's why that guy looked so confused. And like it made me appreciate that more, whereas I was confused the first time I watched it.
And that they don't really spell that out either. You just have to just remember like you did, just put two and two together, figure out that's actually Felix Leiter, doing that. So,
which I really like this version of Leiter. Like, he really seems like a really strong and a well portrayed version of the character.
Kind of like an American James Bond, you know what I mean? Like,
which is what you would think he'd be anyway.
Yeah, like good looking, strong, kind of like. But yeah, Jack Lord, he's he was on that Hawaii 5-0 show.
Really?
Jack, yeah, the original.
I've never watched Hawaii 5-0.
Well, I haven't either, but I just know of it. My dad used to talk about that show, so.
Well, hey, like I like trivia and stuff like that. I love connecting people in movies to like other franchises and stuff, so I really enjoy that. Like,
definitely.
I want to know what everybody plays in, even if it's not necessarily something I want to watch. Like, which I might watch Hawaii 5-0 one of these days. Like, I got a long list of old TV shows I need to watch, like Columbo and stuff like that.
So. I know what you mean, but I always get stuck watching the same thing, like Sanford and Son, and I watched. You know what I mean?
I love Sanford and Son, man.
Me too.
Me and my grandpa. And speaking of old stuff, like this is hopping around a little bit, but like the three blind mice thing at the beginning of the movie, like every time I see that, I'm like, Three Stooges, man.
Yeah.
Because that theme song takes me
Yeah.
straight to Three Stooges.
Well, if the Bond podcast don't work out, we can have a Sanford and Son / Three Stooges podcast.
Oh my man, we ain't no telling. Like we would kill that. I love both of those shows. They're so good.
But yeah, like I do like so. What about what the first car Bond drove on screen was? Do you remember?
What was it?
It was that car after Mr. Jones, the chauffeur, kills himself with a cigarette made of
cyanide capsule.
Yeah.
Which is really smart. Like for the time period, hiding cyanide in a cigarette, that's genius because you're not going to find it.
Yeah, most definitely. Ain't nobody going to be worrying about a pack of cigarettes.
No, because everybody smoked.
Everybody smoked.
What kind of car was that he drove?
It was a 57 Chevy, a Chevy Bel Air.
My grandma and grandpa had one of those. It was black.
That's I love that car, man. I've always loved 57 Chevys, man.
They're really nice looking cars. I should have paid more attention to the car. I wasn't. I think I was paying more attention to the cinematography or maybe the lack thereof in the chase scene. So,
these early Bond movies, they do a few things. They jump cut a lot, which you probably saw some jump cuts back whenever they killed Strangway's secretary. They jump cut a few times there.
Yeah.
They do the thing where, where you can tell Sean Connery's sitting in the car, but in the background, it's like he's moving, They do that a lot in these in these early movies.
It kills me when he looks back behind him and he looks in the mirror.
Yeah.
And I'm not making fun of it because back then it was good. It's just it's kind of jarring.
It is
nowadays. So
nowadays when we can do everything with computers, it is jarring.
Yeah, a little bit.
But I do love it whenever Bond pulls up to Government House and he tells that one guy, he says, make sure he doesn't get away. And dude's dead there in the car.
The guy's he's like, okay. And then he really looks, he's like, hey, man, this guy's dead.
This bro dead out here.
Oh, man. Whenever we get to the beach club, I have something I've got to talk about. So remind me when we get there in a minute.
Most definitely. But so whenever he goes to his hotel for the first time, so this is one of my favorite scenes right here. So he goes in and the waiter or the valet is making him a vodka martini. And then do you remember what he does to his room? He takes a piece of his hair and he puts it across the closet to where he can see if somebody's been in his room. Yeah. He puts the powder on his attaché case.
Yep.
I live for moments like that, just the actual, because I'm gonna be honest with you, man. A lot of these Bond movies, Bond is not being a spy. He's being like an action hero. Yeah. I love it when he's actually doing spy stuff, and
it's simple stuff that if you're snooping, you're not gonna think about it.
Yeah.
You're probably snooping around in the dark. You're not gonna notice a hair.
You're not gonna notice that stuff at all.
You're just trying to get in and get out quick.
Mm-hmm.
So that's smart.
So we see him, he figures out about Professor Dent. He goes to Professor Dent's club.
Yeah.
I don't know why I said Professor Dent's club. Professor Dent's office, and talks to him. And
he walks in the door really quick after he asks about him too. I thought that was funny.
He also learns about another man, which is a fisherman. It's our boy Quarrel. So what do you think about old Quarrel?
Well, this is going to sound bad, but whenever I first met Quarrel and the other guy, I was like, it's going to sound bad. Just know I don't mean anything bad by this. I thought Quarrel and the other guy were the three blind guys.
3 blind mice? All right.
At first, it took me, I was wrong, but that's what I thought at first, just because I wasn't really paying attention the first time I watched it. So,
yeah, yeah, Quarrel. I don't know why they had to have that scene of him like, you know, wanting to fight Bond, and that other guy comes in and grabs hold of him. Like
You gotta have action.
yeah.
So
Even though if it's a action scene like that, wasn't much of an action scene at all.
when
But
Bond kicks the knife out of his hand, like it was goofy, like but it was good. I like all the red stripe boxes in the background too. That's good
I was
advertising.
just about to say that, Colton. Have you ever had
Didn't-
Red Stripe?
No, I haven't. I've wanted to try it, but I have not.
Well, man, let me tell you, Red Stripe is a beer that my household loves, bud.
Okay,
They sell it up here at Martin, so that's a beer we keep at the house a lot. So
okay. Well, next time I come up, I'll have to try it.
yeah, most definitely. But yeah, man, I like the Red Stripe boxes too in the background. I was literally about to say that.
Well, it's good marketing because they probably paid for that, and
Yeah,
like I don't know, I liked it because it's something you would definitely have at a beach club,
yeah,
and plus they're locale. So
yeah. Jamaica. That is the beer of Jamaica.
yep,
But but yeah. So that scene, we meet Felix Leiter. We finally figure out he's a good guy.
he was really smooth too. I was like, man, this guy has like
Yep.
screen. He's like leading man presence here.
Oh yeah. So Jack Lord's Felix Leiter never comes back, and the reason why is they wanted him to come back, but Jack Lord said, "Well, if you want me to come back, you have to put me on as like Sean Connery and Jack Lord
Right.
in whatever movie." So he wanted like
Like
he wanted to be the same importance.
headliner.
Yeah,
Yeah.
he wanted to co-headline,
And
which
Sean Connery probably wasn't having that.
I think it was probably more Albert Broccoli, the top dog.
That
But
makes sense.
I don't know. I haven't really seen. I don't know how Connery and Jack Lord got along. I really don't know, to be honest with you. But
One of the things I was kind of disappointed in this film is whenever Quarrel goes with him and on the island, like I was like, I would have rather seen Felix go with. I mean, Felix probably would have died.
yeah,
Like so,
that,
but
that's
I would have liked to have seen. I would have liked to have seen that version of Felix Leiter go with him. I thought that would have been interesting.
Yeah, that's. I mean, honest to God, Colton, that's a dream casting of mine. I would love to see. I'm honest to God, I would love to see Sean Connery and Jack Lord both co-headline a movie. That'd be awesome.
Yeah.
I mean, but yeah, man. Like, we'll see in the novel, Doctor No, Felix Leiter was not in that novel at all.
Really?
Yeah, and I've always just kind of guessed the reason they put him in the movie was just to establish him as a character. Like, okay, this is Bond's American buddy, and he's going to be in some movies down the road, but we're going to go ahead and establish him as a character.
As a contact.
Yeah. And of course, at that club scene, I don't know if you noticed this, but whenever the club owner Pussfella is walking through the club, everybody's dancing. There is one dude that is like,
That's what I was going to tell you. He's cracked out, dude.
Out like
he's over here like.
It looks like he's on some sort of like drug or something. He looks like some people from Savannah, to be honest with you.
Man, his eyeballs are like about to pop out of his head. That is one of my favorite parts of the film. Like, I could not wait to talk to you about that, man.
Oh, yeah. I know all about that guy.
It's so funny. I was like, there is no way this is in, and the camera pans right over it like it's nothing.
Yeah, like he's just regular, he was tweaking, dog.
Tweaking hard, man. Like it, I don't know, that was so enjoyable.
Yes,
and like it was the first thing I noticed about that scene when I was watching it yesterday. I was like, man, I've got to bring this up.
Well, I'm glad you noticed it because that was one of my notes that I wrote down for this, and I was like, man, he's probably going to have no idea what I mean.
Connery's entrance scene and that were the two notes that I wanted to bring up. Best parts of the movie.
He should have had headlining with Connery.
Forget Jack Lord or Mac. It was a Jack Lord, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. I want to say Maxwell Lord. He's a DC character, but
I got you.
Jack Lord.
So what do you think about? I can't believe we haven't even discussed this girl because we talked about the girl trying to take a picture of him. But what do you think about what about her, the camera girl?
Yeah, she did not seem very smart at all.
No,
He had her number back at the airport, I think.
but what I like is how remember she takes that thing and rubs it across Coral's face.
Yeah,
Remember, it's like blood all over him, but he's like, "Well, you gonna break her arm?" Like,
it's like not even phased at all.
yeah, he's just a badass. Like,
I like Quarrel.
yeah,
I do.
um, but I mean, yeah, there's a lot of good things that happened at that club scene, man.
Oh, yeah.
Like,
It was really enjoyable.
it was enjoyable. You got anything else to add to it? Because if you do, go right ahead.
No, I really that's probably my highlight of the film. Honestly, like, I could watch that all day.
I hear you.
And there's probably people that have never even noticed that.
Oh yeah. So moving on. So go back to the government house, and Bond gets his Geiger counter, and he also meets the second girl of the movie, Miss Taro. Remember her?
She's the plant, right?
Yes.
Yeah, and you could tell she's a plant, like
Yeah.
really
Acted
easy.
very suspicious the whole time, and they put makeup on her. I think she's supposed to seem like she's supposed to be made up to be Chinese, but she's so obviously not Chinese. It's like
What nationality was she?
in real life she was English, I believe. But
Really?
they put like some makeup on her to make her seem more Oriental.
Yeah,
It
she
just
had
don't work
her
though.
eyes looked a little bit Oriental, but I was like, the whole thing was a little weird. So
I mean, I always thought she looked, good, but I mean, I just don't think I don't think they like
tried very hard.
achieved the Chinese effect that they were trying to get at. Like, because even as a kid, I never thought that lady was Chinese. I was like, well, it's a white lady, like, I mean, but and of course, Bond already knows she's, bad, but of course he's going to arrange a date with her.
Man, whenever she came in acting all sus, and then Bond goes to leave, he's like, "Actually, can I go out to that door?" I'm like, "Oh man, he knows something's up." I was like, "That's so smooth." That's another really good part of the film too. So, and he really threw her off. I don't know why she would even set up a date other than them wanting to take him out. Like,
Yeah.
that was really dumb on her part.
Yeah, like for real, like why would you? I mean, you got to think, yeah, you want to kill the guy, but at the same time, out at your house by yourself, you have nobody else to protect you. You're just out there with this dude that's a badass. You know what I mean? Like,
You
so
probably
let's
don't even realize how bad he is.
yeah. So what about the car of the movie, the Sunbeam Alpine?
Man, I really like that car. Like it looks like a really nice car. Uh, Now don't get me wrong, I like the later vehicles a lot more, but I thought it was a nice looking car for the time period. Like, I don't know anything about the car other than the name and what it looked like in the film, but it seemed sporty enough for Bond, and it did what he needed it to.
So, so, so something I want to discuss about the car is in the book, Doctor No, he actually drives the same car.
Really?
But in the movie, the car they used that car because it was literally the only sports car that they could find in Jamaica.
Really?
So somehow it
It
just
just
it just all worked out.
that's actually really cool.
Yeah. And we completely forgot one thing, man.
What's that?
We forgot the tarantula scene.
You know what we did?
We
And that
did.
was like, I did not like that tarantula scene. Like, I'm not a big spider fan,
Yeah.
but Connery's performance of that scene, I really enjoyed. Like, he's all sweaty, and you could tell he's like, man, something's crawling on me, dog.
In real life, Sean Connery was actually very afraid of spiders.
Well, that you can tell. Like,
And
his acting there is good.
and if you look closely in the movie, I mean, you can see a glass pane between
Yeah.
him and the spider.
You could tell it wasn't curving over his skin because I thought that was like, yeah.
And also parts of that when it's actually on his skin was not even Connor, it was Bob Simmons, the stunt double.
Man, way to go, Bob. Because I would not let that crawl over me.
But see, the thing about tarantulas is they're not deadly to humans.
I don't know a lot about arachnids. So.
So one of my students, for those who don't know, if you're watching this, I'm a teacher. One of my students told me that he had a tarantula, and he said it was the sweetest animal he's ever had, or sweetest arachnid he ever had, and said that they were nothing but big old fur babies. That was his words. Was fur baby. But in the novel, Dr. No, instead of a tarantula, it was a centipede.
Which makes sense.
And centipedes are the centipede that was in the novel actually could most definitely kill you. It was poison.
My uncle is a bug collector, and he has a centipede right now that's probably as long as from the tip of my fingers to about right here, and it's just it's huge, and I don't like them. They're pretty intimidating. Like the pincers on them are like that, like maybe not as big as that, but you know what I'm trying to say. Like,
I know exactly what you mean. What about whenever Bond's killing the spider and it's doing like the Looney Tunes, like
yeah, they really tried to make it dramatic.
Yeah. But I will say this: one of my favorite sets in the movie is when when Professor Dent goes to Dr. No's island, Crab Key, to get the spider. You know, he's there telling Dr. No about it. Just that room he's in with the I don't know how to explain it. It's like a circle dome. It's just a strange looking room. I always thought was really cool.
Seemed like a real villain lair without like a flare. It's just like I enjoyed that. Like I thought that was a cool sequence, especially with like the door slid open, right? Yeah, that's ominous.
But Ken Adams,
Star Wars vibes.
Go ahead. I'm sorry.
I said it gives me like Star Wars vibes before Star Wars.
But Ken Adam, the guy that did the sets in the movie, you know, all the different, you know, areas, like he's great, man. Like designer and stuff like that. He's amazing.
I would probably live in some of those suites they had in in those rooms, like with the bookshelf in the wall. Just one, I really personally, I love it.
So I think we can move back to where we were. I just wanted to make sure we included the tarantula. I have no idea how we went over that, but so I think where we were going to it was at Miss Taro's house, and of course, Bond realizes she's a bad guy, but because on the way, your boys, the three blind mice,
trying to kill
him, and probably the greatest car chase ever in movie history.
Man, what is up with the way they drove off that cliff?
What I like is they drove off the cliff and it just blew up. Like,
yeah, it was on fire immediately. like poor gas tank placement's got to be what it was.
Like what? Like what the hell happened? Like,
why was that crane in the middle of the road?
Yeah,
whatever it was on the side of a mountain.
Like, there's so many questions here. Like, what was going on? Like,
well, the operator of the crane just walks out by Bond. He's like,
yeah, what happened?
Like, you mean me parking in the middle of the road caused a wreck?
It's like,
that's insane.
It's like, did you not see any of that shit that just happened? Like, but
he's like, I was taking a tea break. That's what it was.
But yeah, man, like the three blonde, and that's of course R.I.P. We see that's the last we ever see of those guys.
It's a shame too, because they're really efficient, you know, other than not being able to take Bond down.
Yep. But even though they had a few times where they literally had him in their crosshairs, but they didn't do it. Oh well.
Nope, taking way too long. Take the shot.
Yep. So, of course, he knows that old girl isn't that good, But Bond, he's gonna have his fun one way or another. So he at least waits to call the police on her until after he enjoys a little bit of a,
Coitus.
yeah, coitus. Yeah, we'll say coitus like Sheldon would off of Big Bang Theory. Yeah, a little bit of coitus.
As nerdy as I am, I've only seen like 2 episodes of Big Bang Theory.
Man, my mom loves that show. I had to watch it with her a few times. Like, I'm not a fan. I'm not honestly. I'm not a fan.
I'm not judging. Like I haven't seen very many episodes of it, but I think the only like appealing factor of it will be like Kaylee Cuoco. Her, like, she's fine. Like, I like her acting. So that's probably the only reason I watch that. So
I got you. But the next scene is one of my highlights for the whole movie. Bond knows that somebody is coming to kill him. He has a pretty good idea who it is. So he makes the place look like, he's in there asleep. He puts pillows on the bed. And then I just like how he throws her shit off that table and puts a deck of cards up there. And he's playing solitaire.
I got to keep myself entertained. I got work to do.
I always like that. And then he comes in. What? Go ahead. I'm sorry. What?
I said it was smooth.
Yeah. And Professor Dent comes in and shoots the bed. And Bond gets him. And tell me what you think about that scene, man. I want to hear it from you.
All right. So him just sitting there playing solitaire by himself is definitely like an old school like way of keeping yourself entertained. Yeah. Like, I thought that was cool. Plus, the simple fact that there was already a table and chair behind that door worked out perfect for Bond. Super smart. And then dude comes in, he shoots, and Bond doesn't immediately attack him or anything like that. Like, he keeps shooting, and then he disarms him. And then doesn't he sits down and he goes to pick up the gun again, and Bond's all calm, cool, and collected because he already knows that he ain't got no more shots left.
Exactly.
I thought that was one of the coldest parts of that movie. I was like, all right, bet. He knows.
My fault.
Like, he's in the dark, and he knew what type of gun, what caliber, how many shots it had. Like, Bond knows his stuff. I really appreciated that.
Yeah, like what I like is he said, that's a Smith and Wesson, and you've had your 6. Then shoots him.
Yeah.
I don't think that was a Smith and Wesson, I think he had a 1911.
It was something. Yeah. I don't know what it was.
I think 1911s have 8 rounds in them, not 6, but
yeah, 7, and you can fit one in
the chamber.
2. Yep.
Yeah. Anyway, it's still a badass line, whether or not it was right or not.
It's really smooth. You just can't look at the minor details, man. Just Bond's got plot armor.
It's the only nerds like me would like nitpick that. You know what I mean?
I mean, that's how I am with like different stuff like Batman and stuff. So I completely understand. Like, it's the small little Easter eggs in movies and stuff that I really appreciate. Like, on a rewatch, like, that's probably what I'm gonna be thinking about, waiting for it to come back up.
Yeah. Yeah, and the next time you rewatch it, look at it, see if that's a 1911. If I remember correctly, it is. But
you're probably definitely right. Like, you probably seen that movie like 1,000 times.
Yeah, I have. But a lot of the times I was watching it was on VHS because this was back in the day when I was watching it a lot. So, after that, Bond and Quarrel and Felix, they all get on the little boat, and of course, as you said earlier, they lose Felix halfway through. They send him on back for whatever
reason.
I think the reason they sent him back was to call the Marines if Bond goes if he's gone too long or something, some bullshit excuse.
He's like, we gotta have some way you can come back and be the White Knight in like the last 5 seconds of the movie.
But
it's ridiculous.
Yeah, and there's one part they were talking about putting the sail down for the radar. Does radar pick up cloth sail? I mean, like,
I don't know. Like, does radar even work like that?
I mean, like, maybe it does, but I always wondered if that really happens like that. So anyway, we're on Dr. No's Island, Crab Key, and Bond and Quarrel decide to, kind of take a nap until daylight, and they wake up, and who do they see? Who is it?
The Bond girl, who's
Yeah,
Honey Rider.
Honey Rider.
That's
And so what do you think about that scene?
I mean, it's pretty iconic. Her coming out of the water like that.
Yeah,
Like, I know it's been redone a couple times. Like, Halle Berry comes to mind whenever I see that. Like, I mean, I'm not saying Halle Berry did it better. I don't know, I like Halle Berry's, but like, it's just special. I'll say it's special.
most definitely. Um, and of course, that boat comes and shoots up the place. There's one part where the guy talks as if he has the megaphone in front of his, but he doesn't. It's over here, and he says full speed ahead, but he's not actually got it in front. But it's still amplified. Like,
There was a couple like scenes in the movie where people are talking and their mouths don't match. I guess what we would call ADR nowadays. I don't know what it was called then. They're so far away. I mean, the only reason you or I would notice it because I pay attention to the mouth movement, like whenever they have like Asian or different types of people to see if they're really speaking English or if they're just dubbed over or whatever. So,
yeah.
but I could notice that with one of the people on the boat.
So there's actually a few people that's dubbed over in the movie. Honey Rider is dubbed over.
Are you serious?
Yes,
I didn't even notice.
Honey Rider is most definitely dubbed over. So Ursula Andress, the girl who plays, the woman who plays Honey Rider, I believe she was Swedish, I think, and she was dubbed over by Nikki Vandersil is the name of the young lady who.
I guess the whole eye candy effect really goes in hard because I didn't even notice. I'm just like, I'm not paying attention to what she says anyway, man.
I honestly think, I mean, I have to give it to the early Bond movies. I think a lot of the early Bond movies handled dubbing really good. I think a lot of it was handled pretty well. I think Eunice Gayson was dubbed over too.
Really?
I think she might be. I'll look that up as soon as I get off here.
That makes sense. Eunice was Trench, right?
Yes.
That makes sense with the way her mouth kind of moved.
Yeah.
It seemed a little off, but I was just like, maybe it's just because English isn't her first language or something. I don't know, but I'll probably go back. I still got the rental from Apple. I'm gonna buy the volume of all the Connery films. But I just rented from Apple for today. But I'll go back and check it out for my rentals up tonight.
I think a lot of the dubbing they did a pretty good job at hiding that it was dubbed. I mean, you watch some spaghetti westerns and it's obvious they're not speaking English. You know what I mean?
Yeah, they're pretty bad at times.
Yeah.
As much as I love old westerns, it can be pretty rough.
Yeah, I used to watch those old Clint Eastwood movies, and you could tell those guys were speaking Italian, but somebody had dubbed them over.
Yeah, definitely. They'd be like, and that.
But so what do you think about the dragon?
The dragon is not what I expected. But it makes sense. I still don't know why those people would be so confused about what it is, really.
Yeah.
Maybe they don't have cable or something, and
they're just Crab Key.
Yeah, in Crab Key. It should have satellite though. There's a lot of tech there.
It must be on dial-up,
Definitely. Would it even be dial-up or would it be rotary up? Like,
yeah, you're right. Rotary.
that was a pretty bad joke. You can cut that out.
Hey, I dig it, man. We're leaving it in.
All right.
So moving on. So whenever we meet this dragon, of course, this is when we see the end of our friend Quarrel.
I was actually sad to see Quarrel die. Like, I liked him. He seemed like a strong character, to be honest.
Yeah, Quarrel is definitely one of my favorite Bond allies of the whole series. I mean, go ahead. I'm sorry.
We got more out of Quarrel than we did Felix Leiter.
Yeah, Quarrel did a lot more than Felix did.
Yeah,
Felix really didn't do much in the movie at all. Like,
no, but he looked cool.
Yeah, he did. He looked good, but that's about it.
Like, I would like to look like that guy.
Yeah. So after Bond and Honey are captured, they're took to Dr. No's secret base, Crab Key, and I really like the decontamination, they do because they're radiated, and all it boils down to is them getting a bath. Like,
Yeah, like 3 times.
yeah, like that's all it took.
It, I guess it's some sort of chemical bath or something.
Yeah,
I don't know, but they don't do a really good job of explaining that.
yeah, just and and then they're pretty much put into a fancy, I mean, really, honest to God, a fancy hotel is pretty much what they're put into,
It looked
which is,
really nice, like I would say that.
yeah, which is, I mean, that's really it's a common trope in the Bond movies that the villains do that a lot. They put Bond in a room or they have dinner with him, which Dr. No does. But first, remember he drugs him.
Yeah.
The coffee they drink is drugged and it puts them out.
Yeah, he looked like he was really excited to eat those scrambled eggs too.
Yeah, hey, you've seen my video on the scrambled eggs,
I
eh?
have. I know he likes his scrambled eggs.
But so of course we have Bond and Honey going to eat dinner with Dr. No. So what do you think about old Dr. No once we finally get to meet him? It's very late in the movie when we finally get to meet the good doctor.
Yeah, I swear when we got to that part of the movie, there was only like 30 something minutes left
Yeah.
of the film.
It's not much at all. Like,
I thought it was strange, especially the part of the film after Bond is drugged. Dr. No goes in there and he just watches him sleep. I'm like, what's up with dude? Like, it's creepy.
yeah.
Like, why? Why is he watching him sleep? I didn't understand his motive there other than just to like make him seem really ominous.
Mm-hmm.
But he's got like a really commanding presence when he comes on screen. I like how he's like Bond's over here thinking about the fish tank or where they are in relation to the fish, and he's just like 1 million. And he's like, what? He's like, it cost $1 million. I'm like, I mean, he probably was wondering how much money it cost, man. But
Yep. I like that scene too.
yeah, it was cool.
Yeah, $1 million, Mr. Bond. Just out of the blue, like.
Yeah, like that's automatically what he's thinking of. So
And that's another character that was obviously supposed to be Chinese, but wasn't portrayed by a Chinese man. Like,
I couldn't tell like what he was. So I didn't Google the actor's name either. So
well, originally Dr. No was supposed to be the unwanted son of a German missionary and a Chinese girl. So there would be some white in him, but I've always thought that at least the novel version of Dr. No was a Chinese man, like very Oriental looking, but
which would make
the
sense.
the movie version wasn't. But I love Joseph Wiseman's portrayal of Dr. No. Something I do want to bring up though. So have you ever heard of a character named Fu Manchu?
I've never heard of the character. I've heard of a facial hairstyle
Yeah.
called Fu Manchu. That's
So
all I've heard of.
so Fu Manchu is it's a character. He's a villain in a lot of different older movies.
Okay.
Dr. No is actually based on Fu Manchu.
Oh.
And something I wanted to make sure I brought up in this, because I know you're a comic book fan, one of Batman's villains is a Chinese man. And I think was pretty much Batman's version of Fu Manchu, Ra's al Ghul. Yeah.
Okay. So yeah, Roz his nationality is like
All over the place. Like,
disambiguous throughout the comic book his history and comic book history. Like I think like sometimes he's portrayed as somebody of that descent, and sometimes it's more like of a Middle Eastern descent. And then like you have in the Nolan films, like
he's a white dude, ain't he? Like,
yeah, it's Liam Neeson. So
yeah, it's like
but like I'm not complaining about it. Like, but it's really cool that that Batman character was based off of something related to Bond. So I
Well,
think that's interesting. I didn't know it.
well, I mean, Fu Manchu is just kind of like he's kind of like a stock character for like villains, like it really goes back to a period of time like in the 1920s and 1930s where a lot of people were afraid of Orientals and Chinese and Asians and Japanese. It's called the Yellow Peril, where they were afraid of Asians.
Yeah,
So basically, it goes back to kind of a racist, well, not kind of a racist,
definitely racist assumption.
definitely racist. But I mean, I don't think. I mean, that being said, I mean, Fu Manchu has a few films that are pretty cool, and Doctor No is by far one of my favorite villains. Um, so, what do you think about the dinner with Doctor No?
I think it was uh, pretty straightforward. I like how Bond tries to distract him, like by jumping after
Yeah,
Honey Rider just to hide the knife. But like Doctor No is so calm, cool, and collected. He's like, "Put the knife back on the table, Mister Bond." I
he
was like,
does.
"He's
So that,
smooth."
yeah. Let me tell you about that. So, in the novel Doctor No, Bond actually does steal a table knife and a lighter.
Oh,
But
is he
see,
like
you got to think when Doctor No came out, most people knew of the books, the James Bond books. This is the first movie.
right?
So what they wanted to do was they wanted to, some of the people who they wanted to like throw some of the people who read the books for a loop and kind of
Little
switch it
switch.
up. Yeah,
I like when they do that, so
I do
I
too.
can appreciate that.
Yeah, like
That's not a very big departure.
yeah.
So
So they make him give the knife back. So now Bond doesn't have that. And the book Doctor No really is different at this point because in the book, and I mean this isn't too much of a. I mean, ain't too much of a spoiler for you, but he has to fight an octopus in the book.
okay, I'm down with that.
And the
I like
octopus name is Pussfeller, if I remember correctly, in the book. Whereas Coral's friend that ran the bar is named
Woods Feller.
Pussfeller in the movie.
All right.
If now I might be off on the novel Pussfeller. I could be remembering it differently, but I think that's how it went. But of course, in the movie, we don't get any of that. See, in the novel, Doctor No wants to put Bond through an obstacle course, whereas in the movie, he just gets in the tunnel and climbs
I
through
was
it.
just thinking of like Shawshank Redemption. Whenever I saw that,
Yeah,
I was like very reminiscent. Which I need to watch Connery's movie The Rock. Maybe there's a scene in The Rock similar to that. I don't know.
man. Have you seen? So you never seen The Rock?
Uh, I probably watched part of it when I was a kid with my dad, but I have no recollection as an adult. No.
We got to watch that one then.
Okay, I'm
That
down.
well, we at least got to talk about it on Zoom.
That's fine with me.
It's a movie I love.
No, I like Connery. Like I could probably watch that man watch paint dry.
Yeah,
Honestly, like
most definitely.
he's got a good presence.
He
Like
does.
even movies that aren't good that he's in, I enjoy. Like
Yes,
I love League of Extraordinary Gentlemen. I think that movie is ahead of its time.
it is. It's a great movie, and
It is.
and
It gets so
everybody,
much hate. I was like, man, Connery's great in that movie.
dude, I love the League of Extraordinary Gentlemen.
I watched that movie for the first time at the drive-in. Like my family went to a double feature of Legally Blonde 2, I think, maybe Legally Blonde 1 or 2, and League of Extraordinary Gentlemen. So like I was over there like sleeping during Legally Blonde, but League of Extraordinary Gentlemen came on. I was like, oh yeah, I'm eating right now. This is some good stuff.
It's a good movie, man. I've got it on a DVD.
I think I have a DVD or a Blu-ray somewhere. It's been some time since I've watched it, but I need to revisit that. I've always wanted to read the comics, so
Yeah, me too. We need to do that. That'd be awesome.
hey man, we can do comic reviews. I'm down with that.
So, we see him getting splashed by water and almost drowned and all that stuff. And finally makes it out and he beats that guy up to get his radiation suit.
Yeah.
And then it's pretty much he just goes right into Dr. No's control room, in which we see Dr. No is trying to topple American missiles.
Right.
What do you think about that little setup?
Personally, for me, I was slightly confused, but like I understand it now. I think it was just. I think a lot more of it is implied, whereas I didn't see the connectivity between the things.
Yeah.
But it makes sense, like in retrospect. The room looked really high tech for its time, and it was also I could tell how Bond could easily blend in with those radiation suits, to where I thought it was a cool way for him to go undercover. But he almost blew his cover when he was calling dude's name, and Bond wasn't responding because he didn't know dude's name. So I thought that was funny.
What gets me is whenever Bond gets up there, he gets up and he's turning that thing.
How did he know what that did?
Yeah, it's just kind of like he's just doing random stuff, and then he's turning it, and everything starts going haywire, and everybody just starts leaving. It's like, well, hey, how about somebody just get up there and just turn that thing back? Maybe everything will be all right.
That alarm starts going off. They're like, I've been wanting to quit this job.
Yeah, like,
They don't even offer dental here. I'm gone.
yeah.
It's funny.
Yeah.
The crazy thing is how far out, whenever they do start evacuating, is how far away that island is.
Yeah.
And all the people that are just stuck in the water.
You see people jumping off like they're going to swim back.
Yeah, that is nuts.
Yeah. Like, but I mean, so I will be honest with you. The fight with Dr. No, probably one of my least favorite villain fights. Not much happens at all. It's like Dr. No tries to do stuff, but it just doesn't work.
It wasn't great. But then again, like I think his performance is his performance leading up to that was the enjoyable part.
Yeah.
And the fight was just like, I guess the potatoes to go with the steak that we'd already had. Like it served its purpose. It wasn't much, like there's probably not much that those two people could have done in those radiation suits anyway. Like you can't see Adam very well. It was kind of like almost funny watching him like fight out him. Like at first I thought he was going to just stomp on him whenever he was stuck on that thing. So I understand what you're saying. Like it could have been a better fight, but I understand it for the time period. I don't knock it.
Yeah, I understand. There's in the early 1990s, there was a James Bond kid show called James Bond Jr.
You've told me about it some.
Yeah, and Dr. No comes back and he's like green because of the radiation he had. It's pretty wild. But
you're gonna have to explain. We're gonna have to revisit James Bond Jr. because I want to understand how all that happens anyway. So
I would love to revisit James Bond Jr.
Well, I'm down, man. I'm down for it all.
So after Dr. No is defeated, Bond goes and rescues Honey Rider, who is trapped in a room with some water coming in. I guess they're just going to drown her.
Really didn't understand that part either, but I mean, you got to go save the babe. So,
and then they go out and hijack a boat, and
man, they are throwing people off that boat too.
They weren't they?
They could have let them ride out with them. Like, what was it?
I mean,
you got to be so mean.
Yeah, like I kind of feel sorry for some of those guys. Like, I mean, why would they? I mean, why would Bond want to fight them anymore? Dr. No's dead. These dudes are just trying to get out. Like,
he's like, no, this is my boat, dog. I'm surprised there was even a boat left with all the people that was just bailing anyway.
It's like, bro, I won't get to shag this girl if you're on the boat with us. So I'm just gonna like knock you off of it. You're gonna die now. But
yeah, he's like, he said it's more important.
Yeah. And of course, we see Felix Leiter with the Marines. I'm glad they came in at the end.
Which were they the United States Marines?
Yes.
Okay, I couldn't tell. There was a flag, but I didn't know what kind of flag it was. I didn't research it any.
Yeah.
So
At least I think they are.
Oh, I mean, it might have been like the Jamaican flag and behind them. I don't know.
You
It
know,
probably was part of. It was probably part of the boat.
I probably need to go watch that part again. I don't know. I just always thought they were the U.S. Marines. Who knows? Maybe
They probably were if Leiter's getting them. But I mean, if he's a liaison, he might have access to something else. But they were white dudes, were they not?
if they're white dudes, they're Americans then. So that's.
I mean, I'm not saying that, but I mean, it is an easy
Yeah.
course to follow in the '60s. So
um. So yeah. So Doctor No. As I said, whenever we started, um, a great movie. I mean, I think that a lot of. I mean, I'm gonna have to agree with what other people said. I think a lot of the other Bond movies have added to it, but I still think it's a great starting point. I mean,
it's a solid formula from my point of view, anyway.
yeah.
I think.
And one thing we have not talked about at all,
What's that?
James Bond theme. We didn't even talk about the music at all, besides the cartoon sound effects.
So, like, I don't have any problems with the classic James Bond theme. Like, I love it. I don't think it. You don't get that feeling without that theme. I mean, how many James Bond movies are there? Like 27 or something, or 30?
If you count the unofficial ones, I think there's 27.
So, like, there's like 27 movies, and most of them, like, other than like the parody and the non-official one or whatever, have used the same theme. Like, I enjoyed it.
Yeah.
There was music in the film I didn't really enjoy though. Like, was it the honey and the tree song or whatever?
Oh yeah, underneath the mango tree.
Underneath the mango tree, like that song played like 4 or 5 times throughout the whole movie. I was like, what is this? Like, it's on the record in his hotel room.
Yep.
It's playing. Was it playing at the club?
I think at the club that was playing. I think that song's called Jump.
Yeah, that
Jump
it was.
something.
It was. I'm thinking it was playing at the bar whenever he first meets Pussfeller
Yeah.
and he's talking to Quarrel at the bar. I think it's playing there, and then old girl singing it later on.
Yeah.
So it's like it's like reoccurring throughout the. I thought that was weird. I didn't like it.
I guess that could be the because Doctor No doesn't have a official song for it besides the Bond theme. So I guess you could say Underneath the Mango Tree is the actual song for it. Like
It makes sense to me. It's got to be a no for me though. I'm my least favorite theme.
I think this is the only time that Bond ever sang though. Remember he sang,
He sang it to her, didn't he?
Yeah.
Man, he's just out there peacocking.
I always like that scene, man. Like just Sean Connery singing. It's just so weird. Like
My face is cramping up. I'm laughing so hard.
don't get me wrong, man. I sing that around the house sometimes to my wife and my stepdaughter.
Man, I'm not judging you. It just didn't do it for me.
I got you.
Like, I just thought it was like it was just going against the grain, I guess.
I got you.
It fits the Jamaican vibe.
Yeah. It is strange, isn't it though?
I mean, other than like a few key things, like there's not really a lot to just say that that's Jamaica. So the music makes sense. Like it could just be any like tropical area. So I guess they got the red stripe and the music and.
I mean, could you imagine Timothy Dalton's Bond singing Underneath the Mango Tree?
No, no, definitely not. Not Dalton. Maybe Lazenby. I don't know.
Yeah. But
Was it? He's the one with the kilt, right?
that was the kilt.
Yeah, out there with the kilt singing underneath the mango tree.
Which makes no sense because in real life, Lazenby was from Australia and Connery was the one from Scotland. You would think he would be the one that wore the kilt, but it's actually Lazenby.
Now, has Sean Connery ever been seen wearing a kilt?
Oh yeah.
Okay, that's cool. So he's like a big time Scotsman then, right?
Oh yeah. Well, he was. Rest his soul.
Oh yeah. Well, I knew he passed. So, it's been how many years now?
What is it? 2 years now?
It's been
or 2 or 3 years. I think it'll be 3 years this November or December. I think is when it'll be 3 years anniversary of it.
That's a bummer. He lived a good long time, wasn't he? 90 something.
He was born 1930, and he died in, I think it was 2020, I believe, when he died. Or
So
2021. Yeah, it was 2020, I believe.
So he was like right at late 80s, early 90s.
Yeah, 90. Yeah.
He lived a long time, man. He definitely had an impactful career, I believe.
Most definitely, man. But so if you wanted to learn more about Dr. No, you could read the actual source material in the
I like
book.
that cover.
Yeah, I like this cover too. And this right here is I guess, the novel version of Dr. No. As you can see, he's a lot more Chinese than what Joseph Wiseman was. And also, one of my favorite pieces of my Bond memorabilia is the comic Dr. No.
That's
From
a DC Comic
1960.
showcase, right?
Oh yeah, DC Showcase. This really is more your thing. You're a comic guy. So, do you have any of the showcase ones, Colton?
I have a few showcase. I think most of mine are like DC Comic Presents, and like I think I got some one shots. Like I got a first special issue like Dr. Fate behind me.
Let me see if I can find out what year this is. 1963 is what year this came out.
That's a long time ago for a comic. So especially to be as in good a shape as you have it.
Yeah,
so.
I lucked out whenever I got that comic. I will say that honestly, that is one of my top 5 favorite things I own.
I'm jealous. I think it's really cool just because I like DC Comics so much. So,
well, if you you can find them. Hopefully, you can find them at a good price. If you find them at a good price, pick it up, man. I mean,
well, I will, but I don't think I'm gonna find it at a good price. Like they in the hundos now, dog. So if anybody has any questions or anything for us, they should definitely hit you up at your social media.
So I'm on YouTube, and my channel is For Your Eyes Only, and I'm on Twitter under Jonathan Lynham, and I'm on Facebook under Jonathan Lynham as well. So any of those, you go right ahead and hit me up. And Colton, you tell them where they can find you, my man.
And I'm on Facebook under Colton Flat, and I've got a Twitter, but it's really hard to just pronounce. So maybe just follow Jonathan, and if you tag Jonathan, he can tag me, and we can get in touch with you or do whatever you need to. And we plan on doing this for all the films and maybe more. So
yeah, so we're planning on doing some more movies besides Bond, especially since he's in the Batman. I would most definitely want to look at the Batman movies if you would like to, Colton. And like The Rock, and I've been on a big Indiana Jones kick here lately, so I definitely would want to look at the indie movies. Did you ever see Dial of Destiny?
I have not got to watch Dial of Destiny yet. I want to. I love Indy, but I'm still making my journey back through Indy because Sean Connery's in Indiana Jones, so
yep, you're right.
We got to tie it together with that. So,
well, Colton, I just want you to say, I just want to say, I really appreciate you getting on here with me.
It's been good talking with you, man.
And letting me nerd out for an hour and a half, however long this has been.
Hey, man, it's been really enjoyable. I like doing this stuff, and I think we're going to have a good journey together on doing this show. So,
well, until next time, we will see you. I've been Jonathan Lynham.
And Colton Flat.
Adios, everyone. Until next time.
Thank you for joining us on the premiere episode of For Your Ears Only, a Bondcast.